Since the pandemic shut down their campuses, universities and colleges have been scrambling to adjust to delivering education without students in classrooms, labs, studios, and so forth. Now they're facing a new year and a new cohort and still the uncertainty of COVID-19. How can they do it all? Well, let's find out by asking all of them in the provincial capital. In Thorncrest Village, Anne Sado, president of George Brown College. In North Toronto, Christopher Yip, Dean of the Faculty of Applied Science and Engineering at the University of Toronto, and in Cedar Vale, and post-secondary education analyst Alex Usher, Higher Education Strategy Associates is his outfit, and it's great to have you three with us on TVO tonight. I know you watched the last group of students, so I'm going to put some of their questions to you to see how we get through all of this. But first of all, Christopher, this is your first year as Dean, and I want to run a clip. You ready to go?
Sounds
Tony,
good.
let's roll it.
On behalf of all the University of Toronto Engineering staff, faculty, and alumni, congratulations to the class of 2020 and 2019 plus PUI. You've done it. I am so proud of all of you. Over the past few years, you've all grown intellectually, professionally, and personally, and you've explored all sorts of new things, you've learned all sorts of new opportunities, you've really seen what's been inside and your ability to succeed through all sorts of interesting challenges, not the least of which was this past semester.
That's a great piece to camera, incidentally. You could be a TV reporter if this post-secondary thing doesn't work out. But so that's convocation this year, I guess, eh?
It was a little bit different, but it still worked out well. I'm very keen actually to get to our real convocation and a chance to actually shake hands with our students when we're finally able to do it in person, hopefully soon.
Well, you say hopefully soon. Any idea when that might be?
For convocation, I don't know. It's stretching out. We know we're looking for an academic restart in the fall. That's likely going to be largely online. But for the large gatherings like convocation, that's going to be a few months down the road. We're hoping maybe this fall, but I suspect we're looking at the spring for at least for a convocation type event.
And what will George Brown students actually be coming to or coming back to in the fall?
Well, we're the same. At this point in time, we're expecting that our fall will be largely remote, and that's how we're planning it. And we're doing that just to make sure that we can, in fact, have all of the options available to us. This summer, we do hope to pilot getting back into labs, especially for some of the students who we call stranded, who weren't able to complete their programs. And in doing that, we'll be able to learn how do we keep them safe and how do we keep everyone with no issues as they complete their programs. But for September right now, we are planning mostly remote, and then we'll add to that some of the in-person and other ways of ensuring they get their learning when the time allows.
And Christopher, are you all remote in the fall?
We're going to be all remote for lectures. It's very similar to what Anne described. We're going to try to work as much as we can around what we're going to call in-person experiences, whether they're tied to labs and things like that. It's very challenging given the nature of some of the engineering courses, but we're having all our faculty work to plan to be all remote for the lecture components for sure, making sure everyone meets their academic requirements that they can in a remote way.
Alex, in your view, what has to be in place for universities and colleges to return to some semblance of normalcy?
I think it depends a little bit on what you mean by semblance. I think, so what you're hearing from Anne and Chris is what's going on pretty much everywhere in the country. Lectures online, maybe some in-person experiences, and people are hedging a little bit about what in-person experience means because we don't know what the virus is going to look like in September. I think the keys are, do you have faculty who have received training over the summer in how to teach remotely? That's probably number one. Number two is the extent to which individuals have been able to migrate, have been able to actually modify their courses and to make them more suitable for some combination of synchronous and asynchronous delivery for the fall. Because I think online can be really interesting. It's just a question of how much work you put into it. And I think that means for most universities, that means probably people are going to have to give up some of their research time this summer in order to put that time into classes. And the third thing they have to do is they have to put a lot of work into thinking about how you do student services over the internet. And I think it's particularly around things like mental health services. I think people are going to need a lot of help getting through this. And everything we know about online education is it's partly the education, but it's partly the supports. The institutions that do really well at this, places like Arizona State University, have put an enormous amount of money into student support. And that really does seem to be key.
Christopher, that is quite a mission statement. That's quite a to-do list. How many of those can you check off?
Well, we can check off actually pretty much all of those. We've launched out a very vibrant online training for our faculty. We've put significant resources into our ed tech initiatives and running online workshops for our faculty. The pivot worked really well in March. Faculty were very receptive, and a number realized very quickly how effective online can be and how it can actually be complementary to when we finally get back to in-person lectures as well. So significant resources in play there. Alex brought up a great point about the mental health. We actually, just before the pandemic launched, we actually had just hired a mental health advisor directly inside engineering to help with this process and to deal with these concerns. I'm very concerned about this on the mental health of our students, our faculty, and our staff. And all of our supports are there, but we're continuing to increase this as well, and lots of dialogue with the entire community.
And I have to tell you, just before the pandemic hit, one of your employees was a guest on the agenda when we were back in the studio. And after the program was over, she said, you know, you really got to come down to our place and check out our campus. It's phenomenal. So I did. And I went down and I took a great tour of the culinary arts program that you have, which is, renowned across the country. It's absolutely excellent. But I'm trying to imagine how you do that when nobody can be there. How's that going to happen?
Well, let me help you imagine it, because we've actually already experienced that through the end of our winter semester. So we have amazing faculty and staff who were able to pivot to change how we do things. So our faculty did online demos. They did lots of videos. We're planning to do more. They worked with students in those kind of interactive forums. And then the students actually had to demonstrate how they did things. And a lot of them did that through videos that they not only captioned, but they edited, they showed their final product. And I had the good fortune to actually watch about half a dozen of those videos at the end of the winter semester. And I was blown away at the quality of them and how well the students did, how they adapted to it. And then they were actually able to get one-on-one feedback from the faculty on how they did. And in truth, of course, one of the elements that the faculty couldn't check was how it tasted, but they certainly could see that all the techniques were there and how the students understood the different processes that they had to go through. And as I say, I was absolutely blown away at the professionalism and the attitude of the students and the faculty who completed that way.
I know the three of you had a chance to look at the last discussion that we did with the three students, and I promised them that I'd put some of the questions that they were interested in to you. So I want to start, Alex, on that. You heard Sophia say that a lot of her friends right now are trying to figure out, what do I do? Do I go back to school even if it's only online? Do I take a year off? So to defer or not to defer, what's your best advice?
I think in almost all cases, the right answer is not to defer. And it's for the reasons I think that you suggested at the time in that discussion, which was the alternatives aren't very good. Sometimes people take gap years to work, sometimes people take gap years to travel. Neither of those is really an option at the moment. So it's not 100% clear to me what it is that you could do apart from education. It's not going to be there for everybody. I think there are real reasons why we are going to see some melt this year. I think in particular there are people who don't have the internet access to be able to do classes online. And the surveys that we've done suggest that's probably about 8-10%. That's where if we're going to see melt, it's going to be from those people. It's not going to be from people who have options and choose to do something else.
And Alex, what do we do about that 10%? Because we can't just leave them behind.
No, we can't. I think the only thing you can do is you need to be able to say credibly that what you're doing is you're changing the type of education that you're giving so that it is accessible. A lot of that inaccessibility is not necessarily, I don't have a laptop. It's, I have a laptop I have to share with 2 or 3 siblings. It's I actually my access is through a phone, and I can't use my phone to to do certain types of activities, or I can't my prof keeps sending me PDFs, and I can't download the PDF. I mean, this is it. I mean, we have principles of universal design, which are there which are well embedded in distance education classes. Most of the system doesn't think in distance education terms, so they're learning all this stuff about universal design at those institutions that learn it well and can say, we're going to give you an easily accessible education. They will see less melt because they can offer a better product to those students.
And I do need to ask about the money, because all 3 students were very interested in the fact, well, not interested, disappointed in the fact that they're going to be going back to school with not the university experience that they had hoped for. No fault of the institutions, that's just the way it is, but they're still going to pay full price. What's George Brown going to do?
We are not going to be discounting our tuition. The reality is that we're working very hard. We still have the faculty who will be teaching the courses. We're investing quite a bit in ensuring that they are high quality and that we can ensure that the students do get the outcomes that they get. And the reality is, and I think one of your students mentioned it, we did have a 10% tuition reduction a couple of years ago. Things are frozen. We are not increasing our international tuition this fall, and we are not charging some of the ancillary fees, but we're providing all of our services online. We had a very positive reaction from our students. At the end of our winter semester, we actually did a survey, and over 11,000 students responded, and 86% were satisfied or very satisfied with the transition to online. We've made loaner laptops available. We got extra technology. We've got hotspots. We've got other phones that we made available. So we've really done everything that we could to ensure that our students do have access to the technology that they need.
Christopher, what are you doing at U of T on tuition for this fall?
So engineering, our tuitions have all been set. So we have a very slight increase, but the same as Anne said, we're not reducing our tuition. Our costs are still there. As Anne pointed out, and we are doing as well, we're increasing our levels of support, our financial aid, and providing additional resources. Significant investments now in the ed tech side to provide and deal with these issues around the digital divide and the ability to provide resources for our faculty going forward and for our students. I mean, this is a significant challenge. And I think even for some of the in-person experiences, or what we're trying to do around experiential learning, the ability to provision kits for students and provide those, these are significant resources that are new. It's a new initiative for us, and we're keen to see how well it rolls out, but it will cost, and that's unfortunate.
Alex, what argument, I mean, I hear what the 2 university people are saying, and I understand it from their point of view, but what argument do you think would be persuasive with university or college students who are saying, I'm being asked to pay the same or even more, and I'm not going to get the university experience that I feel I'm entitled to or expected? How do you seal that deal?
Yeah, I'm not sure you do. I think from the consumer's perspective, there's a kind of moral view of pricing. I'm not getting as much, therefore I should pay less. And there's some force to that argument. But I think what Anne and Chris are saying quite rightly is there's almost no costs at universities and colleges that actually go down because of the pandemic. You're still paying for your buildings. You're still paying, you're paying a little bit less in maintenance. Basically, sort of 2-3% cut maybe, and some of that gets covered through ancillary fees. So I'm not doing athletics, for instance, right? And as Anne said, most institutions are reducing their ancillary fees. Plus, they're incurring all these new costs. So I guess the only way I can say it, and this is not at all I doubt it would seal a deal with anybody, but it's just what. This pandemic is unfair to a lot of people in a lot of ways. And this is just one of them. I think it's unfortunate. The only way that you could reduce tuition would be to magically produce, maybe a billion or 2 out of the provincial government, which I don't think is likely to happen. And absent that, this is what you need to keep this is what you need to keep these institutions in good shape for when you do come back. Right, because I think if you reduce tuition now, what's going to happen is that you'll have lower quality when you come back in January or maybe next April.
One of the issues that also emerged from the three students discussion was what would happen with international students. And given how dependent our system is on those students coming from around the world and paying higher tuition fees, which help support our institutions, what's this pandemic going to do to that? And Sato, have you got a huge chunk of international students at George Brown? And if so, do you have any sense about what percentage is going to come back this fall regardless?
Sure, we do have 27% or so. That was our winter total. We actually have a slightly higher proportion in the summer, which we usually do. In the summer, we chose to bring back returning students only because we didn't think we were ready for new. So we also did a survey. When we did that survey that over 11,000 students answered, we asked if students were planning to come back, both domestic and international. And 85% of international students said that they were planning to continue their education. What we don't know, of course, is with new students and whether or not they'll be able to get to the country, whether or not they'll get their student visa. The federal government has now allowed students, international students, to do some of their studies online and still be eligible for the postgraduate work permit, which is something that they really aspire to take advantage of because they do want to work after their studies in Canada and gain Canadian work experience. So we don't know until they register and until they pay. We have made payment options more flexible this year, but it'll depend on student visas being available to them from their home countries. It will depend on whether or not they feel they can start their post-secondary journey in a good way. And we've got all sorts of additional supports to help them do that. But in that particular question, time will tell. But our returning international students who are already here are telling us that they are planning to continue.
Christopher, what's the story where you are on international students?
So very similar to Anne's point, we're just doing our international admissions for our first year students, and we're actually tracking quite well to what our normal rates would be. So about 30-35% of our incoming class are international, so carrying passports or on visas, and we've seen acceptances that are in that range. So we're right on track with what we normally have, and it's been interesting to hear that the majority of the questions from our international students have actually not been about the pandemic per se. It's been what's it going to be like in class. What are my programs going to be like? What's going to happen in upper years in terms of course selections and opportunities? So the questions have actually been very similar to what you would normally get if the pandemic actually wasn't here. So we're actually not seeing a significant amount of concern for international, the ones who have accepted our offers. They're very keen to come, and we put lots of supports in place, as Anne mentioned, to help with the transition, in particular, given the fact that a lot of students didn't really have a full final year of high school. So we're helping with that transition as well.
Can I do a follow-up with you here, Christopher, just in as much as, help me understand the argument here. Let's say you're in India and you've gone home for the summer and you had planned to come back to wherever, let's say downtown Toronto in the fall, right, but everything's online. Why would you bother coming back here when you can just take the courses online from your home in India and you don't
right,
have to get into the rat race of looking for an apartment in downtown Toronto, et cetera?
Yeah, that's a really complex question, and one that's been challenging to kind of address because it's so dependent on the individual student situation. We see a number of opportunities where, by being in the GTA, by being in the region itself, for certain, there are key advantages there, not the least of which is that you're in actually the same time zone. So if there are synchronous lectures, as Alex was mentioning, whether you're asynchronous or synchronous, you're in sync with the majority of your classmates, whether that is including being in a virtual tutorials or virtual design capstone type projects. You're not so phase shifted that you're going to be out of sync when it comes to actual true interaction with your fellow classmates. I think that's a key part of the engineering or the university experience is still remaining connected with your colleagues. Being 12, 15, 20 hours phase shifted is a challenge. We've seen that a little bit even with the pivot in the fall. So that I think is a key reason to actually come to Toronto, understanding all the other complications around on campus or commuting in and the costs themselves. We are guaranteeing that if a student does start remote, whether that's remote in Toronto or remote in India, that they can meet all their academic requirements in a remote fashion.
Alex, given how dependent the post-secondary system is in the province of Ontario to the higher fees that foreign students pay and the money that they spend while they are here, if there is a big exodus from our system of those students, talk to us about the potential damage. What are we looking at?
If you lose one term's worth of new students, and I think new students is where the real issue is, because it's not clear that they're going to be able to, get acceptance. They're not going to be able to get their visas. It's not clear how many of them are going to want to study online. I understand, U of T's probably got it easy because everyone will say yes to U of T as soon as they offer it, but it's not clear that it's going to be quite as, they'll be quite as eager at other institutions. One term is probably about 5% of your budget. 2 terms, it's probably closer to 10% of your budget. It really depends on the percentage of students that you have, the proportion of your budget that come from international student fees. And at University of Toronto, for instance, it's been 2 or 3 years now, they've got more money from international student fees than they have from Queen's Park. It's a major, major source of funding. And it depends how short the programs are they're in. I think so if you've got a lot of students in 4-year programs, you're okay because those students from years 2 and 3, they're staying, I think as Anne and Chris mentioned. But if you're a college in Northern Ontario, which has 30 or 40% international students, and there are a few of those now, and they're mostly in 1-year programs for which they cannot now come over, this is a big problem. Right. And I do think there are 1 or 2 community colleges which are so dependent on international students that we're looking at a major crisis at a couple of those institutions.
You want to name names here? I mean, I think I remember
not really, but
Cape Breton University having what, 75% foreign students?
It's a little less than that, but I would think their budget is around 60%. Yeah, Cape Breton University is very would be very affected. I would think there would be places like Lambton, which would be very affected. International student numbers have been growing enormously at Ontario College over the last couple of years. So much so that in 2018-19, the college system as a whole registered an 18% gain in total income. Not tuition income, total income. And that's simply because they've been making, progress, and particularly at some of the smaller non-GTA institutions, they went very big into this field, and it was very lucrative for a while. And now they're going to have to go back to something closer to 2017, 2018 numbers, and that's a big shock to a system.
And let's just deal with something very practical. You have, I think, 1 residence in downtown Toronto for students who want to live in that residence. And, I imagine you've got some rooms where you've got 2 or 3 to a room. I guess that's off in a global pandemic. So how are you pivoting on that?
Well, actually, because our residence is quite new, we have 2 bedrooms in a sort of 2-bedroom unit with a little kitchenette and a bathroom, etc. We currently have 175 students out of the 500 rooms that we have, but we could go up to 250 because we're just going to keep them as single rooms, as I think a lot of institutions are planning right now. And then we're going to continue to work with public health. If they ease up, if students choose that they want to share a room together, we might be able to go a bit higher. But we're going to very much follow the public health guidelines and ensure that we do the distancing that helps ensure students will be safe and healthy.
And Christopher, a bit of a practical question for you. The students who are coming to you for the first time, brand new students, rookies, first year with all of the, confusion and difficulties that encompasses. And they're coming out of a high school year, a final year of high school, which was initially disrupted by labor disruptions. And now the pandemic, where they're doing 2 or 3 months of online. Right. I presume they just simply can't be as ready and prepared to enter first year university in engineering, for goodness sakes, as students in previous years. And that falls on you, presumably, to do something about that. What have you got in mind?
So U of T Engineering, we launched and just launched a brand new initiative called the University of Toronto Engineering Academy, which is actually designed to address exactly that question. that transition from what happened this year around the high schools to prep them for the first year. So this is 3 courses: chemistry, physics, and calculus, which are designed to help the students. It's all free. All the students can sign up once they've been accepted or accepted their acceptance into U of T. And we've had a tremendous uptake. Almost more than half the incoming classes already signed up for this program. It's being delivered by high school teachers who are well versed in the curriculum. It's an 8-week program. We're very excited about how this is going to roll out, and there's been tremendous interest and uptake by our students.
People are thinking about transformation, and they're wondering how the post-secondary world is going to transform if this becomes a bit of a new normal for a long time. And Alex Usher, I'm going to read something and get you to comment on first that I know you're going to hate, but I'm going to read it anyway. This is an interview with Scott Galloway, who teaches marketing at NYU, addressing how education is going to evolve as a result of the pandemic. The post-pandemic future will entail partnerships between the largest tech companies in the world and elite universities. MIT at Google, Stanford, Harvard by Facebook. According to Galloway, these partnerships will allow universities to expand enrollment dramatically by offering hybrid online-offline degrees, the affordability and value of which will seismically alter the landscape of higher education. Galloway, who also founded his own virtual classroom startup, predicts hundreds, if not thousands, of brick and mortar universities will go out of business, and those that remain will have student bodies comprised primarily of the children of the 1%. At the same time, more people than ever will have access to a solid education, albeit one that is delivered mostly over the internet. The partnerships he envisions will make life easier for hundreds of millions of people while sapping humanity of a face-to-face system of learning that has evolved over centuries. Okay, Alex, go.
Someone's been writing that article every year since about 2001. And it's never true, right? I mean, Clayton Christensen talked about losing half of universities in 2013. Sebastian Thrun, who founded Udacity, suggested we'd be down to 50 universities. He said that in 2000, by 2020. He said that in 2011. None of it happens, for all the reasons that your guest in the previous segment said. People want to be together. People want to be online. I mean, I think what Galloway's tapping into in that article, which was in the New Yorker, I think, a couple of weeks ago, or New York Magazine, he was saying that the reason that online education never took off was because the monopolists, right, the big fancy universities who set the standard in higher education, insisted that education was really about being together. And he's absolutely right that the pandemic does change the cost equation. Now we're talking here about universities that are not, charging $7,000 or $10,000. We're talking about universities charging $50,000, $60,000 a year. So it's a very different kind of equation at the universities he's talking about in the United States. But it's temporary. The virus will end. And at the end of the day, nobody's going to want to be as online as we are today, ever again. I mean, I genuinely believe that. I do think that there will be some expansion of post-secondary, online opportunities, because I think more people have a sense of the possibilities. But for undergraduate education, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, I'd certainly rather have all of you in a studio where I can see you. So amen to that. And what about it? The comments made in that article, is there anything to them?
I agree with a lot of Alex's points. I don't think that will be the new future. It has been predicted before. But I think what this has taught us is that we are going to have to be a lot more flexible in the learning options that we offer. And maybe we'll always offer some hybrid. I've heard faculty tell me that there are students who are in their Monday morning classes that have never been in class on Monday morning. They've got students who are participating online that haven't before. But we can't replace totally the in-person experience that so many of our programs, since they are applied, will offer. And I don't know totally what the future will bring. This is an opportunity for us to refresh and rethink what we offer and how we offer it. And I'm actually heartened by the fact that George Brown completed a new strategy just about a year ago, Strategy 2022 and Vision 2030. And we're finding a lot of the things that we're planning to focus on are now being accelerated. So we think we're on the right track, but it's not going to be just a one size. We're not going to go to a utopian online only world. It's going to continue to be a blend, and we're going to continue to rethink and be flexible and react and lead the way in new ways of doing things. We just don't know what all of them look like yet.
Christopher, I've got a minute left here, and I'm going to ask you what is clearly the most important question of the entire discussion we've had, which is your engineering faculty is notorious, or I guess, maybe that's a harsh word, is certainly well known for its outrageous Frosh Week activities. What's the plan for that during a global pandemic?
Oh, I tell you, I've been super engaged. We've engaged with our engineering society and their plans for the fall. They are very keen to continue to roll out a virtual orientation. They're very actively pulling together strategies. We know it's not going to be the same. We can't have the students running around with hard hats and dipping their arms all together in purple dye, but I know they've got some really innovative ideas rolling forward, and they're working with the student clubs and everything to make sure that this incoming class feels as much of the community as it would normally have happened. And they're keen to do a real in-person orientation when we can finally everybody get back together.
Amen to that. Thanks to the three of you for coming on to TVO tonight and helping us out with this. Ann Sato from George Brown College, Christopher Yip from the University of Toronto Engineering, Alex Usher, Higher Education Strategy Associates. Good luck, everybody, and be safe out there, okay?
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Good night.
Steve.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario. CPA Ontario is a regulator, an educator, a thought leader, and an advocate. We protect the public. We advance our profession. We guide our CPAs. We are CPA Ontario. And by viewers like you. Thank you.